What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I am a senior editor over at the Koalition.com, and I'm joined by editor-in-chief Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown's own Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on? We're going to talk about episode 5 of The Walking Dead, Dead City, stories we tell ourselves. See, I remembered. Yay. I'm telling you, people, I was having a blackout moment. I'm like, boop, boop, what? All right. So real quick before we go in, thanks again for all the people that are supporting us over on iTunes and Spotify, of course, YouTube and the Koalition proper. It's fantastic. It's great. People following, listening, and making comments and engaging, and it's good. It's not just for us, but it's good for the universe, The Walking Dead, the IP, because sometimes it's not so good. Tales of the Walking Dead, not so good. You know, this is like a weird roller coaster. You know, it's like, whoa, this is good. Oh wait, whoa. Yeah, and we got some words to say about this one. And what else? Quick shout outs for all of that, and just a reminder, if you're watching this before it gets released, or if you haven't watched it already, we are going to pretty much spoil it for you. We do a deep dive discussion. If this is your first time here, that's what we do. We break these shows down. So if not, you can go on AMC Plus or Plus, as I like to say, and you can go and watch it there. If not, you could just go to AMC proper and wait for that on your cable service to air on Sunday. But we try to keep things close to when it's released, because we don't want to just be that spoil cast, you know, like, oh, these guys, they release it early and then they spoil. No. We want to support the product. We want you guys to enjoy it and then come back and then see if your theories and thoughts align with ours, because we got a lot going on with this. We got a lot going on. All right, so with that out the way, again, 3, 2, 1, boop. Oh man, this was a packed episode. We watched it together. We had some fun laughs because some of it was just like, what? What is going on? I mean, but there's some parts I have to say that I really did like. Some I did not like, and others were just like questions. Like, for example, when we'll just get into it, guys, I hope a lot of you have watched this, but if not, this is what's going on. We start back off at the tunnel. Remember the subway tunnel? And we see all the walkers, and we already had questions even from the previous episode. Why is Maggie leaving with them? Her whole goal is to get Herschel. She's leaving without Herschel. Where's the screaming of like, I need my boy? No, none of that. It's like, all right, let's leave. Then what? Well, regroup. It doesn't make much sense. But we see her. We see Tommaso, and we see Hemia, right? Is it Hemia? Because I thought it was
Amaya.
Damn, I ripped that name up bad. I knew Amaya. I knew Maya, but Amaya, that's a new word for me. A new name. Amaya. Right? So we see that they're the surviving members. They were like, you see Negan? No, we don't know what's up with Negan. So they're walking through. A lot of walkers laying on the ground, supposedly dead. This is where the Croat would put all of them to get the methane gas to produce, so that way he has fuel for the cars. This is the whole thing. This is where they would all get stored. And so the first thing I'm thinking of, and I think we all brought this up, is Walking Dead proper, when they introduced the walkers that sort of like just like hibernate, until they hear voices, and then they get up like, what's that? That's what we were waiting for here. And it didn't really come about, at least not early part. But it's just funny because you see that they're walking through and we're waiting for it to happen, and it doesn't come about. And I'll get your thoughts on this once we get to this little part here where Tommaso takes off his backpack, and then, surprise, I found some oxygen tanks over here. I guess the Croats left it, in case somebody needs it. And who wants some of this? Who wants some fresh air? And then Maggie's giving him like this stink eye look the whole time. And then it turns out that she's like, you know what? You're the rat. You're the reason why he knew that we were coming. I didn't understand that because he never explained what was the payout. What did they get? I mean, did I miss that part?
Yes.
Well, I did miss it. What was the payout? What did he? Because we know about the bricks, the boat, and all that stuff. I get that, and I want to jump ahead. The reason why I say the payout now is because why didn't he just run off to go meet up with the Croat? Like once he dropped him there, that's what I'm getting at. Like,
Well,
yes, later on, he says, "Oh, I wanted to go to Brick City," which I'm assuming is Jersey, the way he's describing it. It's like, "Oh, I wanted to go there. They got brick ovens and schools, and we're about to have a baby." But yeah, I get that. But why are you in this tunnel? Why are you not in a safe location with the Croat? You did your job. You got them in there. That's what I'm saying. Where's the payout there?
Well, that's a very good question. And to answer that question, there was no payout for the same reason that you had these characters in an area where there were crowded walkers, bodies of walkers, and you think that's a safe place that you should be. The only thing that they emphasized really when he told Maggie that, well, when he tried to escape before, the Croat followed him. So the Croat knew where he was at. He always knew where he was at. So I guess because he's
been a rat since day one. Then that's what I got from that, because he said when he first tried to escape. So this whole time he's been a rat and doing the whole thing with the tribe, which that doesn't really make much sense either. Because then how long were you with the tribal people and you developed this relationship with?
Well, they didn't go into any of that.
I know.
The main thing they want to emphasize is that he went back for his girl, right, Amaya. Mm-hmm. He was willing to give up everything just to get back with her, and that was what he did. But yeah, it could have been better explained as far as what else the reward was, because the Croat knew where he was at though, so it's kind of like he never really escaped him, because if he needed to get to him, he knew exactly how to get to him, which explains why they showed up, why his guys showed up earlier this season. And Negan had to kill some of them along with Maggie. So, but yeah.
And we'll get to also with that, how that doesn't make sense with this storyline. Like this, it just seems like the stuff that they wrote at the first part and where they were going are just like two different writers. Like, all right, I have this idea. This is going to happen. They're going to get over there. They're going to fight their way through and get this. And then as if another writer came in and says, yeah, but I want to tell this story. This is what's going to happen here, right? And then we'll get to that. So let's, maybe like we usually do. Let's split it up because there was a lot of back and forth. We'll just continue on with Maggie's whole section here, and then we'll jump into Negan land. All right. So then they start walking through. Well, before I go into Carlos, you had anything to say about that? Was that okay with you with the whole thing with Tommaso and explaining his situation?
I just gotta agree with what Rich said. Pretty much, he didn't really get anything other than the Croat letting him be with the girl that he wanted to be. That was his thing. So it's, he won't get killed if he feeds them information. So he turned out to be the rat. We suspected the girl that put on the
tape,
CD,
the CD,
whatever it was, but it wasn't her. It wasn't anyone else. It was Tommaso. And yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I don't have too many issues with it, although, he essentially led everyone to their death. So that's just unforgivable. It's like you supposedly cared about the people, and I guess it's fine if you let the Croat know like where the locations are, if it means the survival of the people that you care about. But apparently it didn't, because he led everyone to a huge trap.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, when he was quick to throw Luther under the bus. He was like, well, Luther probably set all this stuff up. He's the rat. Yeah, he didn't want to do any of this. And I was like, do you know something we don't? Did you sneak and see Negan do this? I'm like, oh, this is the perfect read. There it is. I'm going to use this as my scapegoat right here.
And Maggie knew that it was Negan all along.
Oh, yeah.
So
it was tricky. And right at the end of that, where we see Amaya walk off, to keep going down the tracks there, and Tommaso stops and he stares at Maggie. This is the funniest part. I'm like, all right, this is where she either hits him or something. There's a fight, or he just like stays and goes back, because it makes sense, right? He made a deal with the Croat. Well, now it looks like Amaya's pissed off. She said, you rat us out, you caused all these problems, listen, stay away from me. Then go back to your peoples, right? No, he just like bumps shoulders with Maggie and then just like follows along, like, all right, we're just gonna keep going. How does that work? The guy, that doesn't make any sense. Kill him. She loves killing people. Kill this dude right now. No.
Well, they love to create tension on this show for the same reasons that there are other characters that should already be killed off as well, but they're not. So, yeah, it didn't make any kind of sense. I just laughed when I saw it. I said, oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, there was that, and then they get a little further, and then this is where this is, and you brought it up. It's like here they go to another area. There's tons of walkers. Granted, there's walkers all over the place just laying on the ground. But this is where they just decide to take a little rest. Yeah, this is a nice cozy spot, nice and warm. Got a bunch of bodies. Why not? Let's just chill here and talk a bit. And they get into a little chitter chatter. At least, Maggie tries to talk to Jenny. She's like, "Why did you come back? Why are you here? Why didn't you stay in the bricks?" And I'm telling you again, I must have blinked out. I remember back in episode 1 when Negan was asking, "Do you still have the hilltop?" I don't remember them dropping the name bricks. I don't remember that. And so I'm like, well, you know what? That would make more sense then, because the bricks, at least when I'm linking bricks, Brick City, New Jersey, that's not too far from New York. So yeah, that makes sense if that's the location, because remember she got on the little bike and the motorbike and headed to the city. And she was like, Negan's a bad guy. You don't really know him. And it's this whole thing. He's like, he kills me. And she's still bringing all this. I'm like, did you forget that he saved your son, in Walking Dead proper? Did you forget all the good that he did for those people? And that he had a wife and he helped his wife out and the child. I mean, he's done a lot. He helped Rick and everybody. Come on now. He saved so many people.
I will say
Judith,
this.
come on.
I will say this. It kind of with the revelations of this episode, it kind of makes more sense why she's bad talking him, because she's about to sell him out. And the only way to do that and save her ass and have Ginny not be behind, like going after her, is by telling her how bad he is.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
And I want to add something to what you just said, Carlos. It makes 100% sense when you look at the duality of the show with Negan, because we've seen that Negan can be kind and help people out, but you saw he was very vicious so far this season as far as some of the people that he did kill. So, and obviously Maggie, when she saw he killed that guy, when he ripped out his guts, she was taken aback by that. So it makes sense for her to question, she knows that Negan is still not, she doesn't trust Negan 100%. She still thinks he is a threat. She will never forget what he did to Glenn, but yet she using this now to her advantage because she has to get back Herschel. I think it makes perfect sense.
Oh, and just to segue off of that, we know she still remembers all that, because then she's inhaling all this methane and she's getting flashbacks, and we're getting flashback scenes from that episode where Negan is bashing in Glenn and she's still freaking out. She has serious PTSD. That's what's going on here. It's she's never gotten over it. And she's still messed up from all of this.
So I feel like I want to make a controversial statement. I don't think I don't know if people are going to enjoy this comment, but I want to say this. After this episode, I'm really not a fan of Maggie's character. I don't mind if something happens to the character now. I understand they want you to feel sympathy. Oh, well, now because she has a change of heart, because she sees that she lied and all this other stuff, which I'm pretty sure we will see in the next episode. But I kind of feel like something bad has to happen to the character now, because clearly you're using Negan to get back your son. That can't be looked upon as somebody who I should root for as a character. So I want something bad to happen to her now. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and it's just to piggyback off of that, when she was telling Jenny the whole thing, she's like, "Oh well, and I need Negan also. He's the key. The Croat ruined our crops and took my son, and he's the key. He's the only way I'm going to get my kid back, and all this stuff." And again, Jenny doesn't speak, right? So she's just staring at her like, all right, whatever. And then we also get this little heart-to-heart conversation with Tommaso, and he's talking about how the reason why he did what he did, Croat promised him a boat so that way he can go to this wonderful place that has brick ovens and walls and this and that. And clearly he's talking about Maggie's community.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, he's promising a trip to where she's from. I'm sorry, but she doesn't say it. She doesn't supposed to like, that's where I'm from. That's my place. No, she doesn't say any of that stuff. She just lets him ramble on. And then all of a sudden we start hearing screams, and his girl is getting chomped on by some of the walkers that are there. He runs over. It starts happening to him, and it's a bad situation. Jenny goes running out of there, right? That Maggie helps her get out a little further up, I should say. She gets out later, but now we're just seeing this situation here where the girlfriend is dead, and now Tommaso, he's just laying next to her. He's about to die too, and then it looks like he dies, but this cracked me up. Maggie wastes no time, takes a knife and just jabs him in the head. First off, he hasn't even fully turned. Okay, his skull is still hard. Our skulls are hard. That was always a debate within the Walking Dead world. It's like, how long does it take before your cranium becomes mushy enough that you can jab a blade through, right? And I think it came up that it has to go like for a few months, right? So everything just starts decaying in the body, and then it gets into that much. This is still solid. The dude just got bit and died. It's like, and she just stabs him in the head. It should have been a little harder than that. I know I'm looking too far into this, but think about it. She really didn't even have to do that, because it's still going to take him time to turn, and by that point they'll be up the road, up within the tunnel. But whatever. She puts him down the way she does, and then now it's these two just wandering off, and she's still feeling the effects and dealing with all of that, and then she gets her foot stuck. And what was that, like zombie muck or whatever? It was weird. It wasn't like a hole, but we've seen the same trope recently with Fear the Walking Dead, when Morgan had his foot stuck and told Mo, go on, go, and it's the same thing, her foot stuck, go. And then sure enough, she's making all this noise. So now the walkers that are still, I don't want to say alive, but they're still animated. They start moving. And so she heads up a ladder, she gets out. And this is where we get an very interesting scene here, because we're introduced to, as the showrunner called it, the Zombie King, right? It was like, and it's one walker with another walker attached to it, like it was crawling inside, whether to stay warm or whatever, and then another one attached. So it's got all these arms, and it's like moving around, and it's interesting looking. Go ahead.
Can I just make a comment and say,
yeah.
The Last of Us Part 2 did it better. The Rat King was what they called that creature in Last of Us 2. So, but hey, I like this. I did like this creature. I like this variation of zombie, because it feels like this entire show we haven't really seen anything different about the walkers. So
yeah,
that was good. That was nice.
Were you amazed by that, Carlos? I think you were. You're like, oh.
Well, like Rich mentioned, there's not that much variety in the walkers, so it was a good change of pace getting to see something that was different, albeit it provided probably less of a threat to Maggie than just a regular old walker, because they had like, I don't know, like 6 heads or something like that, and
3 heads, and you know what, you bring up a great point, because even though it had that threat, it still suffered the same fate as just a single-headed walker. And it makes no sense because of what happened afterwards. Keep going with your point. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that. The only thing that I do appreciate about that whole thing is, it was different. It had a different aesthetic as the normal walkers. So I appreciated that. And yeah, pretty much it.
One thing I want to add real quick is, I think it would have been more effective if it actually did some damage to Maggie, but obviously you're very limited in what you could do, because if the character gets bit or whatever, that's it. They're infected, they're dead. So I understand that, but I do think it could have been more effective in terms of doing some damage to her.
Yeah, it could have done something else. If it's meshed with 3 walkers, then could have had where she's on her back because she fell, right? That's the other thing. She's like, like looking up, like in one of those horror movies, like it's just gonna fall on me. And we could have had it where the walker with the 2 maybe 2 or 3 legs, or maybe 2 legs at once step on her ankle. And maybe you make a crunch on like, so no bite there, but hey, you broke her ankle or whatever. There was something. Yeah, it made no sense, because what happens? This thing just falls on her, and 3 heads like, and we're like, okay, something has to happen here, right? And she's fighting, and then no, she stabs each one. She has enough strength, enough time to stab each head, and then just push it off, and then at the same time pull her stuck leg out of the hole that was in. And that was like, oh, come on. There should have been a little more to it, but whatever. That it is what it is, right? So there goes that. There's their Zombie King, right? Womp womp. I think if there was a fight between Zombie King and Rat King wins.
Oh yeah,
more of a threat.
Absolutely.
So this was an interesting moment. This was definitely an interesting moment, because we got this little montage that came up as she's going up the ladder. Once she gets to the top of the ladder, she looks up, and we see Jenny's been busy tagging up. She's doing what people in New York do when you're inclined with a way of doing some bombing, if you got some skills. And not much style to this, but she did write liar on the side there. And this is when we start seeing these quick flashes. And we figure this out, because we see that Jenny's on her way out. That Jenny, since she was, and you put this also together, and for those, I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners were probably like, oh, wait, what's going on here? So to put this together, Jenny, when she went to Bricks, right, she found the supplies that supposedly were all destroyed by the Croat, or stolen by the Croat. And so she also finds out that there was a flyer, that there was a wanted, right, for Negan. And that this whole thing of Maggie saying, oh, well, the Croat did all this stuff and took my son, it's a lie. Really what it is that we see also through a flashback is that the Croat took Herschel and said, hey, I need you to bring me Negan. So this whole thing was just for Negan. So the goal here is she finds Negan, brings Negan to Croat, gets her son, and then that's it. There's a lot of holes in this. It's like Swiss cheese right now. Because if you're like, wait, this doesn't really add up with things. But then this is why Jenny came back, because I guess she's going to finally speak and tell Negan this is a trap. I don't know. But we see that much, and then she's running off in the street, and that's there. But go ahead, Richard. You got something to say?
No, I think Carlos has something to say.
Oh, Carlos,
yeah.
I think y'all have me twisted.
Well,
no, I don't have. I didn't have anything to say, but I will mention. Yeah, it was all. It was that was the big revelation, probably the whole series, to be honest. The fact that it's her. We're talking about even before the show started. We're talking about a Maggie and Negan show. How the hell are they going to meet each other again? And it makes sense, they brought back the Croat is a character that used to be with Negan, and he stole her kid. But the reason why he stole the kid is because he wants Negan.
Yep.
And Maggie is trying to fool Negan into thinking, it's like, ironically, using his good graces to help her out to get her kid, to actually turn him in. And it's that's the big revelation of the whole series.
And basically she's guilting him, saying that this is a monster that you created, so this is why I need you to get rid of him. That's what she is basically trying to do. So very manipulative tactic. But yeah.
See, but this is why I said the Swiss cheese, because this doesn't really link up with the whole logic of how things were working out with her, with the tribe and having to sneak in. Why do you have to do any of this then? If you've already made this arrangement and the Croat is waiting for you, just knock on the door. Because she told Negan, I need you to remember, originally was, I need you to talk to him. You know him. Work something out. Help me get my kid back. She didn't say anything about killing the dude or all that. It was like, help me get my kid back. So she could have easily said, all right, listen, I'm going to do something, see whatever. And then, yes, he said they have this dark past and all this stuff that's going on. But then it's like, all right, well, let's work something out. if she had that relationship, or if there was some way that she can send a message to him to say, hey, I'm in town, I got him, now bring me my kid, that type of thing. No, instead she makes it seem like, oh, we're sneaking in, we're gonna fight. So then I'm thinking, well, at some point did she get to change her heart? Well, clearly she didn't, because we saw in the last episode when she knew what he did regarding Luther, she didn't even want to hear his side of the story, because she was like, you're still the same old.
Yeah. That's a good question. And my answer is the reason why they didn't make it that easy for her to just interact with the Croat in episode 1, because they need to stretch this out.
Oh yeah, it would have been over by episode 3 then, because that's it. Episode 1, you do that. Episode 2, they have a fight. Episode 3, they're en route to Jersey. That's it. Yay, we did it. No, I get that. It's just this. It was a good reveal to see this way. It's like, oh wow, I get it. But then when I think back, because just like most of these type, like when you think of that pops up, first thing pops up in the movie Saw. Remember the first movie? I remember seeing that in theaters the whole time. You're like, oh man, this is crazy. How is this gonna happen? What's it got? And then all of a sudden, slow mo. And it's like, oh, that theater went off the people were screaming, and it's like no one saw it coming. And that's why I felt like this was trying to build up, because it was like, it says liar, and then it's showing really fast cuts, and it's like, see Jenny leave it, and then you see her back over at the bricks and seeing looking for the supplies, and then we're seeing what's going on with Maggie, and that the Croat was there. But yeah, they make a deal. Go get me Negan. You see the flyer, like, oh, and it's like, oh, Maggie is the evil one the whole time. She is the one that's causing all these problems for all of this, and she's pretty much the reason why all the rest of the tribal people are dead. So even though this guy was a rat, Tommaso, he was a rat before this. He was just the informant, so that way Croat knew what was going on with the group. He wasn't planted there because he knew Maggie was coming to town or any of that stuff. So that was pretty interesting. But then, yeah, it just that hole right there, like, well, this doesn't add up with how things could have played out. Why were you sneaking if you had a deal already? There's no need, there's no need. But that's why I was like, well, maybe she had a change of heart and decided she was going to help Negan, and maybe by helping him, it's not giving him in, and that way they can do the whole thing. Because even at the beginning of this episode, and it's on, she's like, where's Negan? Like, she cares. Like, who cares? Why do you care now? That's it. It's like, you should be like, where's Herschel? Where's my son? It's like, whatever. Anything else you guys want to say before we flip to the key part of this with Negan?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything with this part. I mean, you mentioning Maggie turns out to be the villain. I mean, she's, for us, the way that the character's been portrayed, it's like it's kind of always been like that in a way. So yeah, it just makes it even more clear.
See, and that was my question when we were watching. I was like, are the writers trying to divide the viewership into two camps? Like, I mean, there has always been two camps once you found out about the show. People that support Negan and the whole thing and like that character, and then those are pro Maggie. But this is really tipping the scale in Negan's favor, because Maggie does not come off as a good person at all in this. So you're pretty much taking this quote unquote beloved character and throwing her under the bus, because I don't see anybody saying, wow, she did it for her kid, motherly love. No, I don't get that either. I don't know. This is just wrong because of all the people that died. She could have just said, when they were like, oh, we're going to come up with a plan to get you in. No, we got this. Just me and him. Because she knows she's putting other people's lives in danger. And we got a little bit of that last episode when Jenny was in the cage, and she could have ran out, but then she ran back to help and do that whole thing. So she sort of feels guilty, but now we know she should really feel guilty, because everybody else was like, yeah, we're going to help you get your boy. And they died. A lot of people died. All right, so let's flip to the namesake of the show. Here we go. Negan. Oh boy, Negan. Last we saw, he was in a shop, and he was being held at weapon point, because I think that was like the nail gun, and by the sheriff, who is a prick. That was a dumb move for him. Here it is. Negan saved him.
He's a marshal.
That's right. He's the marshal. What the hell? I don't know. Yeah, that's right. He's the marshal for the what you call it, new
Babylon.
I was about to say New Donk City.
What?
Babylon. That's right. New Babylon. Babylon 5. There we go. So anyway, yeah, and when I remember last episode, the first thing I thought, we were going to head back into this and we are going to see that he's going to, like he did, rattle off section 3141, you killed the judicial, blah, 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 and then put the weapon down. And like, well, I'm throwing that out the window because we got bigger issues here. We got this crow. But no, that wasn't the case. He clearly is taking him in. And Negan's like, why are you doing this? And he was like, you killed Judicial. Why'd you do that to them? And he's like, you know nothing about me. If you would have seen what those guys did to my wife. And this is something we put 2 and 2 together a few episodes back when Negan told this story to Maggie about what happened with his wife on the road, that she was assaulted by some men, that this was it. This is why he's wanted. He probably found them and did some horrible things to them. And they're just people of power. And that is exactly what happened. They were people of power. He killed them. And so the marshal was sent on the road. And now the marshal earlier on had said he's a family man. Remember, he got the wife, the kids, the whole thing. So he gives a second look at Negan. And I got that look of like, are you BSing me? Or is this true? Because if it's true, then I guess he can relate because he's a family man. If something happened to his wife, yeah. But if this is a BS story, then you're even more of a prick than I am for what I'm about to do to you. So, I don't know. Before I go any further, this is a key moment right here. What did you guys think of that little back and forth with the marshal?
They pretty much did the regular type cat and mouse game between 2 people who are after each other, but they don't know each other. And they use that to build their characters. Not really surprised. We also talked about this in the previous show. It's like, how are they going to settle this? I don't remember who someone said Negan was going to run away. I don't know who said that.
Well, not me. I really thought the marshal was just going to put his weapon down, but
yeah. So they ended up talking it out. Negan is a goody two shoes now, so he's
and yeah, that's an issue. That's an issue for me. And I'm sure Rich will have some words to say when we get to the next part, because you were right, Rich. He was shot with a nail gun in the leg because the whole time he's limping. And you know what? It makes perfect sense now because, as we know, this is The Walking Dead, not The Running Dead. So if you want to have scenes like what happens in the following scene where they're walking and there's just a few of them behind them, but all of a sudden they're like surrounded. Yo, how did this happen? You got to say the guy got hurt. He's moving real slow, and Negan won't leave him behind. He could, but he doesn't. So he starts bringing him, carrying him across. Come on, we got to go. It went from like 2 or 3 to, I don't know, it looked like 20 or 30 out of nowhere, right? From the left to right. It was just closing in on him. Like, see, this is why when someone gets hurt like this, especially a guy who you're, pretty much his prisoner, then just leave him. Leave him. He's not grateful that you even saved his life. So be like, I'm not saving it twice. This is it. I'm sorry. But no, this is a nice guy, Negan. And I got to throw a little shade at Jeffrey Dean Morgan because he said we're going to see Negan of old. Negan of old would not have done this. I'm sorry. Negan of old would have just been like, hey, how fast can you hobble? And then that's it, and left him. But whatever. So he helps him into a building. They go navigating through the building, and they see some very creative art with these walkers. Now, before I go any further with this, just regarding the art, do you think this is going to come up later? Why did they show us this, where we see the crazy looking art piece? We see another one where the body has got a spike through the head while it's sitting in a chair. Someone was having their fun with these things. I was trying to figure out if this was a connection to another group, that maybe that's what they were doing there. They stumbled upon someone else's camp, and we were now going to get introduced to them. Sort of a callback to the Warriors, in the classic New York film where the gang from Coney Island goes to the Bronx for a big meeting. Right, everything falls apart. That leader gets shot. they say that the Warriors did it. So now the Warriors have to get back to Coney, but along the path, they bump into a bunch of gangs and all kinds of bad things start happening to them. And that's what I was thinking here when I saw all this. I'm like, oh, they're coming across some weirdo guys now that like to torture these walkers. Did you guys get that vibe, or I'm just looking too much into it?
I personally didn't get that vibe. My whole thing with them going into the building and them seeing the walker that was dead, that was done just to give flashbacks about what happened with his brother, because his brother was in the same stance where he was slugged over in a chair. So that's what I thought. He saw that, and that again made him think about what happened to his brother. That's the only thing I got out of that scene.
And at this point, we didn't know about the brother, right? Because the brother, that scene doesn't come up until later in the bus.
Well, no, but we did see earlier in the season when he went back to his old place. Picture. Yeah, so you kind of assumed it was somebody he knew that was, but we got more context in this episode as to who that was.
Yeah, I have some questions about that scene too. All right, what about you, Carlos? Anything special about this? Did anything jump out that was like, oh, maybe there's another crew? Because there really is 2 more crews if you think about it, and we'll bring that up toward the end.
So I think it's only 2 live crews. Yeah, I don't think that scene had much to do with anything, to be honest. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just feel like it's just, hey, let's make this set a little bit more interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just pretty much the gist of what that was. I don't think that's gonna tie into something larger.
Yeah, well, hopeful thinking on my end. I was like, oh man, who knows? Maybe if they get a second season, we find out. We got some creative survivors here that are just messing with bodies.
The fact that we got the real big bad in this show.
Oh yeah.
In the penultimate episode, it makes me think, this is not going to end in the next episode.
Yep, we're getting there. So then, as you navigate, you got something else?
Well, I just was going to say it may not end, but it's going to be a long time before you see the second season of this.
Oh, yeah.
All that's happening.
With the writer's strike, the actor's strike, the clown strike going on too. It's just it's nuts. All right, so then as they're navigating through, and I think at this point, I brought up, I was like, man, this guy's hobbling around. Just grab a walker and toss him. And sure enough, a walker comes and Negan grabs him and tosses him right at him. So then the marshal is fighting him off, and then Negan goes running, and he's trying to break through a door. But then this is the part that I don't get. Because yes, again, Marshall fights this thing off, but he still has time to hobble his way all the way down, and that I was like, come on, like I get this to build up more of this connection, this story, but it was just too much. And then at that point, that's when Negan was like, all right, listen, I'm gonna help you out, and he's like, well, are you gonna help me? And he's like, because I just don't want your blood on my hands, because then they'll think that I did it. And I think he says that a little later on, but it's still linked to this of why he is still saving him. I'm just it's because he even said that in this scene in particular, he said, why are you doing this to me? Like, with everything going on here, he doesn't bring it up, which I would have. I'm like, the Croat just threw you over a rail trying to kill you. He tortured you. Why are you after me so bad? And it's got to be the money, right? Because it was a wanted poster. I'm sure there's something going along with this. And that's what I was expecting to hear. And he didn't say anything. He just left it alone. And he was like, all right, well, whatever. Come on, let's just get out of here. I just can't leave you here. And then that's when they also go in a little bit like backstory. It was like, well, were you before? And he said he was a school teacher. He was also working for the state, which plays a big part in the next scene, because they get into a school bus. And what are we doing here? Sure enough, he knows that the school bus has a first aid kit. That's the first aid kit, starts bandaging up the marshal for his injuries, and then he walks off and onto the other side. And this is where we get another piece that sort of threw me off. And this is where the marshal opens up and says, hey, listen, my brother had a drug problem, all these issues. I'm from the Bronx. He worked the docks. I wanted to work the docks. But this drug thing, all the stuff, he came over trying to steal from my parents. He attacked my mom. It was real bad. So there goes that. And literally, there goes that. What does that have to do with you becoming the marshal, with you putting that other woman's face to the fence for the walkers to chomp on, with you doing all this, going after Negan so hard? That does nothing. That does nothing, because I was expecting him to say, oh, well, now the higher ups have my brother or something, and they said they want retribution for the people that have died. And so if I want to see my family again, I have to bring you in. But no, that's not the case. He's like, he got away. His parents got away from the city, but his brother didn't. And he got this letter. And so he wanted to help his brother out. But then that doesn't make much sense, because I know you said when we saw in that first episode where he goes into an apartment and you see that there's a picture of the brother and stuff there. I was like, I don't know if it's true that his brother lives there, but he never mentioned anything about his brother living in the city. He said they were from the Bronx. And I was like, oh, that's a different borough. Does it really that? Don't tell me that you went to the Bronx and then came back to the city. We didn't see that. That doesn't make sense. I don't know. Maybe too much again. I read too much into a lot of scenes. Sorry, people. But before I let you guys just jump in, that alone, did that story, I mean, Rich, you were vocal, and you can be vocal here about this. It didn't do anything for me. I don't see the marshal in any different light. I still think he's a prick.
Yeah, he is a prick. The only reason why Negan is not going to kill him is because this is a guy that could clear his name later. Because he did say in the previous episode, well, if something happens to you, they'll just send another person even worse than you to come after me. So the whole reason why this character still is around, obviously, is to clear Negan in the end. But I personally don't care about the character. I know Carlos refers to this character as Frank Ocean's brother, because Carlos is a huge fan of the character, but I don't give a damn about the marshal. I will be glad when his storyline is over. I don't care if he gets killed in the next episode. I just don't care, because the story about his brother, it's the whole thing of they left him behind when all this stuff happened with when everything started falling apart with the zombies, everything. And he felt guilty about that. That's what he basically said in this episode. So, yeah. But that's
it. No sense. But why? He didn't say, "Oh, my brother turned a new leaf." He was cleaning up, and it's all he was in a rehab center when things went down. He didn't say any of that. No, is from what we know, his brother was still doing whatever drugs and still robbing and hurting innocent people.
Yeah.
So exactly. I don't get why we're supposed to show sympathy for that, and that doesn't explain why he is the way he is with Negan. I don't get it. Like, oh man, Carlos, do you have any answers for this?
I don't remember if it was in the after show or something, but I guess the explanation with this is the reason why he is this way is because maybe he just judged people too harshly, and that's he judged his brother too harshly without ever trying to I guess empathize with him in any ways, and that's just how he's been living his whole life since then. Probably even worse.
That's right. It was the showrunner had talked about that, and that's what he was trying to show. It's like, oh yeah, he is judging, but I'm sorry, it didn't come off well. It didn't come off well because I didn't pick up on that, and I still don't see it. It doesn't. Oh, because he knows the rules front and back because he's over here quoting it. Remember, it's like, oh, section 314 says you did this. He said that before with the woman that he put her face to the walkers. I was like, so is that your justification? It's like just that you're going by the book and someone slightly breaks it. Is this the same guy that would give someone a ticket in jail time for jaywalking? Probably, right? It's like, oh, you just jaywalked. Well, so what? It's a long side. Nope, too bad. You're going 24 hours in jail. That's section 31413 in blue law.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I do understand where you're coming from, because I feel similar in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's like it's a classic. My childhood trauma is the reason why I'm the way I am, and that's just everyone.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't really move the needle for me in one way or the other. Like Rich mentioned, he's one of my favorite characters because he resembles one of my favorite artists.
I was gonna say it moves the needle for me for him to die next. That's what it does. So it's like I want him to go, and I will not feel sorry for him. And I get it, what Rich said, but go ahead.
But it's pretty obvious that what's going to happen is he's going to be on their side, on Negan's side. I don't know if they're going to do the whole Negan versus Maggie thing for too long. Probably the next episode is going to be a lot based on that. I don't know how the Croat and the was it the Madam? I forgot what they called her.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. That'll be the last one because that was really short. That was weird.
Yeah. So I don't know how they're going to resolve this. My guess is they're not, this whole Negan and Maggie situation. But yeah, the Marshal is definitely going to be on Negan's side. I just don't see any other way.
Yeah, I mean, unless they do another little twist, it definitely gave off that vibe right at the end. It's like, all right, well, we're going to be a team. This is it. We're going to be a buddy system here until he decides to turn on Negan again. Or if we get a surprise and Negan just says, forget it. It throws him under the bus and does something. But there goes that. That was it for their little segment. And the last part of this, I left this for the end because it was kind of confusing. Definitely a 180 for the Croat and how they've been portraying him. So we see the Croat in his car and he's driving on the road. He sees a walker. He runs over the walker and then starts banging his head on the steering wheel. And I'm like, oh, he killed one of his buddies. That's why. Buddy turned into a walker and he's so distraught. He couldn't believe it. Oh, Jimmy. Why, Jimmy? You should have stayed indoors. But no, that's not why. He goes inside a theater and somebody is just banging away on the piano who clearly doesn't know how to play the piano, but trying to make it seem he's putting on a performance and there's an audience. And at first I thought this was the rest of the Croats gang, but it's not. There's someone else. So he goes in the back and knocks on the door, and this woman opens it, comes out. I see what she looks at him and when she goes, she's like, "Move, you bitch!" Right? She said something like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? And it was just like, what? All right, so clearly these are not his henchmen just hanging out. What's going on here? And then he goes in and we see there's this woman and she's sitting in front of one of those makeup tables with all the lights, and it's in the theater, so she's just hanging out there doing her thing. Probably, I don't know if she was actually going to perform or she's just the boss. Clearly she is the boss because he was like, I tried, but we got rid of one part of the problem. But hey, Negan's here. And I was like, well, that's the other hole for me with this whole Swiss cheese of the story, is that one part of the problem, I thought that was your key problem, which was Negan, which is why you wanted Maggie to bring Negan. But no, you're now implying that Maggie is the serious problem, and Negan is here. Right? That's it. That's where it threw me off.
Well, I mean, with the conversation he had with her, what I got out of that is that no, they need to get Negan. Negan is somebody who they obviously want a part of what they're building. Because she told him, you will get him. You will get him. That's his main mission. I don't really know how Maggie fits into this. She obviously, Maggie's goal was to lure Negan there, but they still very much want Negan. I don't think they care that much about Maggie. That's just what I got from the conversation. But obviously, we will have to see what happens in the next episode.
You know who they definitely don't care about?
Hold up.
Come on. Who do they definitely don't care about?
People of color.
Oh, Herschel. No one cares about. Yeah. Where's Herschel? Which I was expecting him to be like tied up in the corner somewhere. So what do we do with him then? No, we have no mention. I'm telling you, he has to be dead. At this point, it's like
no. He is like you said last week. He is filming the Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel when they did this entire show. He is going to be in the next episode, obviously, because that's the last episode. He has to be in that episode.
Hold up.
It's clear that he came in for one day for his shoots, and that was it. I'm like, all right, you got this much time. All right, what are we doing? You have to talk to him. Okay, next scene. Come on, I gotta go. We gotta go. I'm big time now. Like, all right, we do this, do that. All right, we're done. Yeah, I'm out. I'm not coming back. Bye. And that's it. Because there was no mention of him at all. He didn't. For sure, I thought we were going to see him in the scene, or at least mention him. It's like, well, we still have one Ace of Wrestling. We still have the son. No, no mention. And then he like bows down. He's like kissing her hand. The whole thing. Like, this is either his love interest or she is the big boss, and he was just the muscle. Because that's what I'm getting now, right?
Yeah. So let me just, I don't know what Carlos thinks about this, but I just want to make a comment and say, I have to say I am a bit disappointed because the Croat, up until this point, they told you that he is the big bad for this show. And then all of a sudden you introduce a character that we don't know who the hell this person is. Now, the next episode.
An episode for the end. Yeah, right before the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hold up.
Exactly. So the next episode, maybe they really can't go into the backstory of this character too deeply because this is the last episode of the season. So I don't know if they have a plan to really elaborate further, but I will say this. What would have been a good idea, maybe on the regular Walking Dead show, if there was a character that Negan didn't see eye to eye with and separated, maybe, and it was her, they could have made that be the person that returned to this show, and that's who is revealed to be the one in charge. Basically, somebody that we know, so that you don't have to go into a backstory to explain anything because it's already in the actual Walking Dead show. So
and that's what I was thinking too. And you said somebody from the comments had brought up that's like, oh, this girl is from the episode, was it 22 or something like that from a few seasons back? But it wasn't. Yeah. And this one also, I was thinking about it. I was like, is this? And then, of course, it was not as well. This is just a new character. Because, it would have been cool if it was somebody else from that time period. And it was like, oh, we thought this person died. But no, we've seen all the people that were around his round table. They all died. Negan was the only one that was captured. So it really puts him in a bad spot in that case. And I'm sure they wish that they were some of those scenes where it's sort of like what they did with Madison and Fear, where you see her in a corner and you see the walkers coming and an explosion. Yeah, it looks like she died, but you didn't see her die. If they did that with some of the characters from his group, that would have been great with Negan's original crew. But they didn't. We saw them all get shot or died by walker bites, stuff. So whatever. So this is a new character. Yeah, we only have one episode left to really get into it. I have a fear that this show is going to end open-ended. And if the ratings aren't there for this, I don't know. I have to start. In fact, that's what I'll have. That's my homework for next episode, people. I will see if I can find some numbers and see what's going on with this show. Because if it's not there, we're not going to get another one. Also, the expectations, because that's how they do, right? They balance expectations for the viewership. They balance the cost of the show. And I was like, if it doesn't cost too much, the numbers aren't great, but they're decent, then they can keep going, We got to see. We got to find out. Because if not, then this is it. But I don't think we're going to get a conclusion. Maybe one part of it. But if they rush everything through, that woman that called him the crow at a bitch, is that the muscle? But she's she's not. Because he said, oh, you're now working with them, or implying that she's part of another group. And that's what I was thinking. So maybe she's part of the other group that's doing all the crazy, colorful art stuff with the walkers, setting them up and doing something. Who knows? But clearly, there's another group that's out there. And I'm sure the sky's the limit. I mean, it's a city. If they want to keep going with this, they could have a bunch of groups. But I really hope Maggie and Herschel, if they do find them, head back to Bricks, and Negan finds a new group, and we just change their show. Dead City with Negan. I don't need the Daryl Dixon, none of that crap. I mean, this is it. Negan's always been a better character. And granted, Daryl was not in the comics, but I don't, and we'll get into that. But right now, just for this show, though, we'll get into what we found out about the Daryl Dixon. But right at the end, what do you guys think? Closing, was this good for you? You're hyped to see what happens in the next episode?
All right, I guess I'll go first. I don't think the episode was bad, actually. I mean, the whole thing of them finally revealing what Maggie's true intentions are, I think that's good because now there's no more BS about what her intentions are. So I want to see how they're going to explain this. Obviously, they're putting themselves into a corner here because you have fans that like Maggie and fans that like Negan. But I'm telling you right now, because of this revelation, there's no way that Maggie and Negan should still coexist after this. Now, we have to see what happens in the finale, obviously, but like I said earlier, something probably needs to happen to Maggie. It's because it just doesn't. I know I'm not going to feel sorry for the character because they all of a sudden have a change of heart. I feel like something has to happen to her because she's been lying this entire time on the show.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But no, I like that. I like the what did you say? The Zombie King, even though even though that got taken down very quickly. So, but no, I thought it was a pretty decent episode, and I'm very curious to see what happens next.
Yeah. Carlos?
I'm with Rich. I feel like this is one of the stronger episodes of the series. The first one and this one are probably the two best ones. It just made things more interesting for me. The whole Maggie and Negan dynamic was getting old. So throwing this twist about Maggie sort of, betraying Negan, it makes a lot more sense. It gives a lot more clarity to a lot of the stuff in the previous episodes. And just overall, a pretty decent episode.
Yeah, no, I didn't hate it. I liked it. There was a lot of action. I like the set designs. This is definitely 10 times better than what we've been getting on Fear, for sure. This is by no means one of the worst spinoffs. It's actually probably the best one compared to the early seasons of Fear. This is a pretty strong start. It's dark. It's gritty. We got some swear words sprinkled here and there. A lot of action. A new set, so they're not just running around Georgia, which is great. My only issue is with some of the storytelling and just finding the little holes or the little things that just don't seem to add up when I try to put it in my head. It's like, this is connecting here to here. Well, no. But overall, yeah, I'm entertained. I'm looking forward to the next episode. That's usually a good sign, right? When you don't care about the next episode, then it means you don't care. It didn't do its job, which is to episodic TV to pull you in for the next episode. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. But we'll have to see. And the one little piece of news that we also picked up recently, I think it was today or earlier yesterday, but it was regarding The Walking Dead with Daryl Dixon, and that it does have a date. It's coming in September, right? So that's this will be done by then, so that there's no issues there. But I don't know. I'm still surprised and a little worried that they have not shown off anything regarding the running walkers. Oh, well, I can't even say walkers. The running zombies. Let's just go there. Running zombies, because they're not walking anymore. And that was a big selling point for this show. And that was actually a talking point that they said for Dead City. I remember, and I looked up again, they said we were going to see walkers we've never seen before. And if they're just talking about the Zombie King, that's pretty whack, because it was a one and done. We didn't see any other runners in this, and I don't think we're going to see any other ones unless there's a big surprise in this last episode. But that is a big part of what's supposed to make the Daryl show so special, is that with these runners, these walkers are going to be running around 28 Days Later style all over the place. And when they showed that teaser, we didn't see that. We didn't even get a glimpse. It would have been great if he looked out a window or like made it into a building or just something, and we just see in the distance, like 2 or 3, and just like, and then give that question in your head. It's like, was that, are those survivors or are those zombies? Because I'm telling you, Jen, we know this for a fact because the ratings were horrible. A lot of people did not watch World Beyond. And that was introduced in World Beyond Season 2's finale. So people, if you do have AMC Plus, go ahead, boot that one up so you can see it. It's like fast forward all the way to the last 5 minutes, and that's when it happens. And you can see it. And I'm sure there's people that have YouTube clips on it because that's a big part of it. That's the only time we see it. We saw some that can climb in Walking Dead. Remember? The climbers and the door openers, but we didn't see the runners. And I'm really surprised they haven't shown it, and I'm concerned because I'm thinking maybe what if they took it out? What if they change their mind on this? And I'm like, maybe we shouldn't have these guys running everywhere. I mean, real quick, do you guys think that? Rich, do you think it's a possibility that they just decide to scrap? Because they haven't even talked about that. They haven't even mentioned, what are we going to see here? Oh, they got these crazy running zombies. No.
Well, from what I have seen so far, it looks like this show is going to be very different in terms of, I mean, obviously you have the human enemies. It looks like they have like these druid, like some people with cloaks on that also is a part of this show. I don't know any of the stuff, but yeah, like maybe it's a cult, but I kind of feel like, they probably are not going to show those zombies quite yet. I guess they want there to be some element of surprise, but because the only thing we've seen so far is some of the suggested human adversaries that they would have in the show for Daryl to deal with. But I wouldn't lose hope yet because they know this is supposed to be a different show. And I'm also going to make a prediction right now. I actually think that this show, despite the horrible title, because clearly they could have thought of a better title, I think the show may actually be pretty decent. Depending on how much they lean into this being a different location, and it actually looks like a different location. I don't want them shooting somewhere out in the woods and then we'd be like, oh, this looks just like the Walking Dead show. No, if they commit to that, it might work out, but they have to have new ideas and make it a better show. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Like with the new Babylon and Dead City, I got nervous when they started showing that, or as we know now, the bricks. I'm like, oh no, are we gonna do a bunch of scenes here? Is this what's gonna happen? And we're just gonna do quick cuts to the city? But no, that's not the case, which is great. But yeah, I hope you're right. I want this to work out. It would be great if at least 2 of these spin-offs stick, because who knows when we're gonna get that Rick and Michonne. Because that's been, especially now with everything going on with the strikes.
Yep.
I don't see that happening anytime soon. At least with these, they're done. The Dead City was already done a long time ago. Same thing with this one, the Daryl. So we will have to see. I know Carlos didn't watch World Beyond, and that's great. That's fine. He saved a lot of time of his life. Because man, I'm telling you, there's very few reasons to watch that connect to the lore and the Walking Dead universe overall. And it's that end scene, and then there's also about the Civil Republic, and that they have multiple stations around the United States. That'll play out. They played a little bit out in Fear, and that's supposed to be a big part of the Rick and Michonne. So let's see if they do a callback. And I don't know why in my head, I feel like we're still going to see some of those kids from World Beyond in the Rick and Michonne one. They're going to be at a base or something, and there's going to be some connection. I don't think we've seen the last of those kids. And that is pretty much it. Oh, and the last bit, and I don't know if it was, I mean, this was a while ago, and I saw it, and I didn't say anything about it. And it was because I wasn't sure if it was true, and maybe it was. So Jeffrey Dean Morgan, during the interview, was talking about like other projects and this and that, and then somebody asked about, oh man, I should have brought it up, but the actress that plays Carol, right? Because remember, it was supposed to be Carol and Daryl, and that was the show, and that was a horrible name also. I'm glad they didn't go with that. But they said, oh, it's a shame that she had left or she wasn't. And he said, oh, no, she's going to be part of it. She's definitely going to be part of it. And at first when I heard it, I was like, oh, tongue in cheek, and maybe that's not really happening. But it seems like no. That is true. She is still going to be part of the project. I can see a change of heart. I don't think because there was a whole big thing of she was not going to travel, and they didn't even, and people could say, oh, well, it was a red herring. That's why they wanted to suspend. I don't believe that, because they didn't have to mention her, period. They didn't have to say anything. They could have just said, hey, we got this Daryl show. He's in France. They didn't have to mention anything about Carol. But instantly when they said, hey, we got another show coming out, it's going to have Daryl and Carol in it, and it's following their adventures, they said it right off the bat. So it makes no sense to then pull like, oh, no, we're not really doing that to throw you off, and then be like, we got you. It happened. No, I think she had to change her heart. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. How did she end up in France? Maybe she's the one. Maybe she grabbed the boat and then went sailing. And then she crashed, and he fell overboard and washed ashore, and she has amnesia. She's wandering around Paris like, oui, please help me. I don't know. Who knows? All right, everybody, that is it, and we will be back next week. So thanks again for everybody supporting us. I am Negan over on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes, the Koalition. I mean, we're all over the place, but those are the main ones. Go ahead, leave your comments. We check them out. We read them. We try to reply to them. If you got any more comments and theories, you know what? Just spit them out, and then we'll bring them up, and we'll see what matches. All right, everybody, have a good weekend. Well, I should say good week. What am I saying? The weekend's over. All right, have a good week. Peace.